Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach podcast. And here with me today is the one and only Nate Morse, who knows from experience that consistently securing perfect fit clients is the best thing that you can do for your business. In 2021, studies showed that only 12% of customers believe a company is customer first. This means 88% of enterprises have hindrances in their client acquisition, retention, and referrals. So Nate teaches entrepreneurs effective strategies to attract ideal clients, achieve consistent growth with high-quality customers, identify and remove bottlenecks, and build a fulfilling business. Well, Nate, I'm excited to have you here. I had a chance to read through your book, which we'll talk about on multiple occasions here, but I'm wondering if we could just start with some of the basics. Because one of your areas of expertise is marketing on LinkedIn. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel the pressure that they have to be like on everything all the time, right? I have to be the number one Instagram Jedi and the number one, and now we're all on TikTok. Does everyone need to be marketing on LinkedIn? And if not, who should and who shouldn't?
So the majority of B2B leads come from LinkedIn. It's already a business platform. So I think if you sell a high ticket service and you like the market that you want to reach is on LinkedIn, then I think you should. As for like going for every platform, I think that's kind of dial one in and then maybe move on and add the next one, because they're all, if you just, try to do the least common denominator across all of them, nothing is going to be like truly remarkable that you do on there.
Yeah. Now, with regard to LinkedIn specifically, what have you found are some of the most strategic, what are the most effective strategies right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, as long as your profile is good, because if your profile isn't good, you might be losing opportunities at this very second as you're listening to this. But I think that outreach is what I found the most success with on LinkedIn. And so reason being is that we can find the people that are in the market and then actually go and kind of be the guide for them along their journey.
Yeah. You just haunted us with this, the qualifier to that question, which is if your profile is good. So let's take a moment and kind of unpack, how do we know if we have a good profile or not? Yeah, I've had, there's some folks who like put up their LinkedIn and they'll like ask their aunt, what do you think? Is your aunt a good audience for determining whether or not your profile is good, or are there some better standards out there?
No, your aunt is probably going to be just making sure it looks pretty. And that's probably about as far as she's going to get. Depending on your aunt, maybe you have a business mogul aunt. That's a different scenario. But just, your average aunt, I think that they're just going to make sure that it looks good and things are readable.
And so if it's not our aunt, what are some good standards? What are some good principles that we can follow to make sure we've got a good profile on LinkedIn?
Yeah. And so without trying to go too much in the weeds, I can do like a full audit for people later, but kind of like a, high level view of just some main things. One place that people really struggle is doing a really good job at saying like who they help and like what they do, which seems like it should be pretty, everyone should pretty much have that down. But I think a lot of people are really focused on like making almost like a list of benefits, or they're just not really hitting the mark on showing what they do and then showing what they do in a unique way, right? So that's the first part. If they don't know anything about you and they don't know what you do, there's not really much they can do with that. And whether you do outreach or you do content, the profile is the first thing they're going to check out. Next aspect is going to be having proof on there. So showing the results that you can achieve in an easier to find way. A lot of people will, maybe you have to scroll down and go to the recommendations portion, or maybe they put it in posts and, someone won't see that post really. If they're looking on the profile, it'll be, buried down most likely. So making sure that like your headline and that banner at the top, they really bolster, the what you can achieve. And then what I was saying before with what you can do. The third element would be giving a call to action. A lot of people are all over the place. Their banner might not have a call to action. Their headline doesn't have a call to action. And then their featured section, a lot of times I see people, maybe they put posts that do well, something like that. But then you're bringing someone to your profile and then back out into the feed. And so there's in the about section, might say like, hey, here's my email or something like that. But there's not a clear direction of like what the next step should be and what the benefit of taking that next step is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. It's so easy to focus on that on our website and then completely forget about it when we get onto another platform. Now, you mentioned outreach as being one of the most effective strategies, but I know I get a lot of outreach and a lot of it is bad. What are some of the biggest mistakes that companies make when they're using LinkedIn, particularly for outreach?
Yeah, so they rush into just sending people messages. And so they haven't done a really good job. Like they might go out and they might, find templates and whatnot, and then just start, blasting the world and getting a sales navigator list. But really, because I used to do a bunch of cold calling and door knocking, and what I noticed that if I knew something about the person, then that would show that I have intention and they're not just from a list, right? So instead of thinking of it as like spamming, which basically is the same as like a post or an ad, instead, how do you make it so that you're creating an experience for that individual person so that you're more relevant than any post or ad? I think that's the big point is how do you start the initial conversation with like true intention versus, just being another post that lands in their inbox.
Yeah. Is there a client of yours in particular that does this really well?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons. You can go look at the case study side, but I mean, we run things for them for the most part, so it's kind of a joint effort in there. But yeah, I mean, there's the clients that do best are ones that they have to have a good profile, otherwise it doesn't do that well. They have a really good understanding of their market and who their buyer is, because the more refined they get in who's like the perfect client and like their pains and what's going on in their buyer's journey, those unlock kind of relevancy, and that relevancy drives urgency.
Right. So true. So one of the things that really jumped out to me as I was reading through your book was kind of the all-consuming, now it seems, conversation of AI, and particularly with using AI to enhance our strategies for outreach. What have you found is the most effective way to use AI today, and how do you think that's going to change over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so there's more AI coming into play because I think it's overall the kind of like the workflow of things. So using AI to help you build the lists and help you do the data analysis of the market research. And then on the other side, also using AI to see, to get insights on like, okay, within all these conversations, like what are we learning from here? Because I think earlier you asked what's something that people, miss or don't really that well with outreach. I think another component would be the testing. A lot of people will just start messaging people and then it works or doesn't, but there isn't really a testing methodology with hypotheses and different things that they're working on in there.
Yeah.
So I think that's like kind of the main portion. I mean, it can help in terms of getting ideas, but I think the final product still needs to be done by a human. Same with books, right? I don't think that you can just chat GPT a whole book. Even with the book that you saw, that came from me being in, I don't know if you remember, it was called Jarvis. Now it's called Jasper. It was an AI program. They brought me in as the second person to try it. And then one guy in this group was an author and he's like, hey, I created a book over the weekend. Let's all try to do one over the week. And so I did that, and there was a bunch of AI used in that, but still the end product, there's probably 50% of it, got, tweaked by humans.
Right. So when you say outreach, just let's take a brand new LinkedIn newbie. They've got their profile up, they've read your book, so they know what needs to be in the profile, and they're ready to start outreach. They don't want to rush in. How should they start thinking about using LinkedIn in general, right? Because what I'm getting at, some folks they'll just jump in because they want leads as soon as possible. Other folks will kind of play around with it, but never really set any criteria for what they want out of it. What's the best mindset to be in before jumping into something like a structured LinkedIn outreach campaign?
Yeah, so the first thing to think of is like, what are the different buckets? So instead of trying to spam the world, what are the different buckets? So the first thing you should do is be messaging people that are in your current network that are a good fit, because you already have the relationship with them. So start testing some different angles with them. But also when you go out to the market, instead of this big umbrella of, hey, here's everybody that I can work with, what are the segments within there that are going to have the best opportunity, and then creating unique approaches for them, which I know you said mindset. So mindset wise, it's really about how do we segment people down to the point where we go, okay, like this is why I found them. Here's why I'm going to reach out. It gives you a much better understanding of how to make something more potent for them than being like everybody else and just loading up a sales navigator list to whoever you can work with and spamming the world.
Right. What would you say is the advantage of having someone else do this alongside you? I know I've tried to do campaigns by myself, and it's been really hard. And I've done campaigns with others and seen just a very different degree of success. Has that been true in your experience? And if so, why is there such a big difference between doing it yourself and doing it with someone else?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, when I first was doing it, it took me a few years to get over like a 5% reply rate. And I was just using what I found on like YouTube and Google and stuff, and that wasn't really working. So I had to take a step back and rebuild the wheel, and then that started working, but without those insights from previous, sales experience of doing outbound, cold calling, things like that. I wouldn't have gotten those. And then also, I have a bunch of clients that when they come in, they basically said what you just said. They've been doing this for a while, but they haven't really cracked it. And so they want to actually break through that. And so what I've noticed is that it's mostly two parts. One is that it's the skill. So like talking to people, doing market research, finding all of this, that's a skill. And so you can either, if you want to have it as a skill and do it on your own, it can take you, months, years, maybe. And then, but, if you work with someone who already has those skills, just like anything else, things go much faster. The second aspect would be data. So since we've been doing this for about 7 years, we have tons of clients. We have a really good kind of refinement protocol for, okay, what should we be testing and when and what's working right now, things like that. So just overall insights, and then that skill level as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So, Nate, there's a question I like to ask all my guests, and I'm gonna fire it your way as well. What would you say is the biggest secret that you wish wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
I have two. I have two secrets.
Yes.
You got enough time for two secrets?
Let's see it.
Okay, so the first one is kind of going deeper into a little bit of what I said earlier about being the guide for someone. Because if there's someone, if we're just, and I want this as a buyer, that's why I'm saying it's a secret, and then I don't want it to be a secret, because as a buyer, I want this. So if I'm going online and looking for different things and I'm trying to find the solution, I'm going to all these YouTube videos, all these different websites, all of that, and I'm looking for who's that person that's relevant to me that can help me get educated on the buyer's journey. I think that if you can, as the market leader, find those people on the journey, you can become like Yoda to them and make them you can make them Luke essentially. And especially if you're doing coaching or something like that, instead of waiting until someone's ready to buy and then start coaching, what if earlier on we actually coach them through the buyer's journey? So as a buyer, when I'm making high ticket purchases, if I can have someone reach out and take the effort to actually help me get through, they're going to be the person that I'm going to want to work with because they were helping me earlier on, and I got a taste of their coaching almost. Does that make sense?
It's so good.
Okay, so that's the first one. Second one is that entrepreneurs are we're basically the change makers of the world, the ones that bring new stuff into existence, right? And so if our clients are the ones that we build the business around, and they're the ones that give us referrals, then at that point, essentially, the quality of clients is potentially the most important metric in the whole world at that point. So I think that focusing on quality of clients instead of just getting clients in general, that really changes things. But yeah, those are the two secrets that I wish weren't secrets.
I love that. It's fantastic. There are so few people who I've found, especially early on, take the time to really identify what makes a quality buyer, right? What makes a quality client. And it's just a critical piece of even building a scalable infrastructure. I've seen very, very few, if any, build a scalable model without doing the work of identifying who their ideal clients are, who their quality clients are. So I love
that. Gets more potent. Everything gets more potent when they do that.
It's so true. It's because, you take something as simple as what you talked about. You run a test on a subject line, but you send it to the wrong group of people. you can't learn anything. In fact, you can learn the wrong things, which is even worse than not learning anything. So
yeah, if you don't have the right list in marketing, right, the rest like doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's so many extensions of that. Brilliant. All right, so the book was fantastic. I want to make sure folks can get a copy of it. Tell us a little bit about this book that you've written, who it was written for, and where they can find it.
Yeah, so the book is mostly angled at helping people that want to start using LinkedIn for business or get better on it. So the majority of the book is focused on different areas of the profile and helping getting better than there, but also mindset-wise about like how to use LinkedIn, how outreach should work, things like that. So overall mindset, but since they need that playbook or the profile done, like that's going to be their first step. There's a lot of stuff in there, and just like my overall journey and fun stories throughout. So, and they can find that on, you can go to, you can either go to my website and find it in the resources section, or you can go directly to keys.natemorse.com/book, or you can find it on Amazon if you want to pay for it.
Brilliant. And some folks are listening. They've been mucking around with LinkedIn and not getting the results that they want. They want someone who's got the skill and experience to really fast track their success there. How can they reach out to you and find more out about the work that you do?
Yeah, so you can either go to my website, natemorse.com, or a potentially faster way would be just to find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message there.
Brilliant. Nate, thank you so much for being here. Just a privilege and honor. Again, fantastic book. Anyone who wants to do anything at all on LinkedIn must check it out. Super, super practical, super helpful. I found myself like, oh, shoot, I need to go do that. Just as I was getting ready for the episode. So well done with that. Thanks for being here. For those of you watching and listening, you know your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.